So, welcome to the Conversation Corner. Today, I have another amazing guest who I've known for about 18 months, I think, if I got my years and my dates right. And Bob was introduced to me. He's a copywriter, but one of the things that really resonated with me and why I love being in contact with Bob is because he's a copywriter after my own heart. It's all about being human. It's all about being the person behind the business. It's not about trying to be one size fits all. And this is one of the things that I do love about what Bob does, but I will get him to explain it a bit more. But one of the reasons I also asked Bob to come and have a chat with us is because he's also been on some sort of confidence journey. And being a solopreneur, as some of you know, it can be really scary, and trying to find your confidence and find your resilience within while you're building your business can be quite a challenge, exciting, a journey, however you want to do it. But first, welcome, Bob, and thank you so much for being here. Introduce yourself and explain to the audience a little bit about what it is that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Natalie, first of all. It's wonderful to be here. I don't often do video stuff, so I got myself made up for today. I'm joking, I didn't really. So yes, I'm Bob Taylor. As Natalie said, I am a copywriter. I have my business is called CopyBean. And it is all about humanness. It's all about being authentic and writing in your business. For me, I come from a background of sales, which I'm sure we're going to get to in just a moment, so I won't go into that just now. But I come from a background of sales, and with sales, it's all about being authentic. It's all about selling yourself. You're the reason why someone's going to buy from you, not what you're selling. Because other people, you can almost guarantee that what you're selling, somebody else is selling the same thing, maybe even better than what yours is in some circumstances. But that's not the point. The point is people buy from you. And that's where copywriting really needs to, how you promote your business, the marketing that you create for your business needs to be you focused, but also focused on how you help the customer. And that's what I help people do, particularly solopreneurs and small business owners. So just choosing the right words to communicate what they offer and how they offer it to their customers in the right way and in the human way, as you said.
And it is, like you said, it's explaining it in the right way. And you and I, just before, I hit record, we were talking about, writing a newsletter and having
Mhm.
all these different colored lines underneath the yellow, the blue, and the red, almost trying to get you to write in a different way. And it can be very annoying, distracting, frustrating. Was that just me? But for me, and it's like, no, I write the way I speak because I want people to really connect with me. I don't want to be corrected. And this is something that I've noticed more and more. So as a copywriter, the it's really important to keep that authenticity, that authentic, use the words that you normally use, have the sentence structures as you would speak, especially as a solopreneur, because otherwise, okay, it's different for technical manuals and legalese and whatever else, but just as a solopreneur, just trying to be yourself, it can be quite something having AI and these different colored lines just literally flashing at you and like, no, change that word, change that sentence. That's not clear enough. Don't say that.
Absolutely, and it does happen. And when I first got started with copywriting, it doesn't happen so much now, but it did when I first got started, which was about 4.5, 5 years ago. Um, was you've probably heard of grammar police. So people that you would write something and then their only comment on that post was, "You spelt this wrong." It's okay. What
You
does it
forgot to put
matter?
a comma there.
Yeah, you didn't use a comma where you're supposed to, or you're supposed to use a semicolon or a demicolon or whatever the language is. And let me tell you something right now, and I'm never scared to admit this. I'm not a grammar expert. And as a copywriter, I don't need to be a grammar expert. People often like to use the phrase write as you speak. I get as an overall arching sentence, it's fine. We shouldn't write as we speak because if you were to transcribe exactly this conversation, it's going to be all over the place. And if you write that as a sales page, it's probably not going to be effective. So some editing is required. Writing is very, very slightly different, but the phrase I prefer to use is writing conversationally. So you keep it conversational, and you'll notice that just listening to us speaking here, especially when you're speaking, what you notice is that some sentences are longer, some are shorter, and that's called rhythm. And within copywriting, good writing, what we enjoy reading, has rhythm, and it's because in our mind we're reading it as if it were a conversation. So I call it writing conversationally as opposed to writing as we speak, because there is a small difference in in the terminology there. But as a general idea, 100% write like you would speak, and then you can always edit it down a little bit afterwards, if it is just rambling. But writing as we speak is also different to transcribing. Right? We're not asking you to, talk into a microphone, have it transcribed, and then just put that out there. Because that is going to, most of the time, it is going to be gobbledygook. We always go off on a little tangent somewhere. We stop mid-sentence and we go somewhere else. And as a written form, that's not the greatest and it's not particularly going to sell. But yeah, the grammar police, going back to my original point, was definitely something when I first got started. There's less of it now. I think people are kind of more accepting of the fact that you don't have to be 100% grammatically correct. And it does cause some issues with the use of Grammarly and things like that. I do use Grammarly because it does pick up errors that are necessary when I'm a professional writer, because sometimes we make errors, right? But at some other points, it's knowing when to look at what Grammarly is telling you and saying, no, because if I do that, it's going to change the structure of what I'm saying. And that's not what I want to do. Also, Grammarly isn't always looking at the sentences around the sentence it's saying is wrong. And they're telling you to explain something, but it doesn't know that you explained it 2 sentences ago. This is just a kind of a backup sentence or something like that. So you don't always have to pay attention to that stuff because that just turns you into a robot. And we don't want to be robots. That's if you just take everything that Grammarly tells you to change, you end up writing what somebody else has written because Grammarly is giving you a suggestion on what you should change it to, and everyone's choosing that suggestion. So then now it's no longer uniquely you. It's no longer what you would write. And that kind of moves with the Grammarly, it moves us into that conversation of AI and people using AI content. And I don't think there's any problem with using the AI content to produce ideas, but just using raw AI content, created content, it's never going to be authentically you. So if you are going to use AI, if you are going to have that as part of your processes for creating written content, okay, but make sure you edit it for afterwards. Don't just publish it as it is because that's not you. I mean, AI may be trying to emanate. I mean, I know some people try to emanate famous people that are write really, really well. They say, write this as if X person was saying it or something like that. But then that's not you, is it? That's somebody. Well, it's not even the person because it's AI's version of that person that you're trying to tell them to copy. So I've gone down a massive tangent here with that question. But
No, we like tangents.
it always comes back to making sure that if you've got content, we call it editing, and to anyone who's not a writer, editing sounds, oh my God, I don't want to edit what I've written. I've just spent all this time writing. But editing is as simple as just reading back what you've written and then thinking about, did that sound good? Was the rhythm there? Does it sound conversational? Do I need to make any changes? Maybe that sentence is a bit too long. Let's pop a full stop in the middle and start a new sentence. Or rather break that into 2 sentences. That'll be easier to read. That's the editing I mean, not going through and rewriting the whole thing like a magazine editor would, because that's someone's job. And that's not your job to do. Your job, if you're just creating content, is to make it sound authentic, but make it sound readable and easy and easy to read. So tangent over.
It's also when you edit, I 98% of the time I will reread, especially my newsletters, I will reread what I've written. And it could just be, oh, hang on, that word will be better there, or let me just tweak that or change that, or no, it's pretty good. I'm quite happy with the way it is. And I think this is where I think it's quite useful to edit. I mean, it's not necessarily an edit, but I think it's just clearing that you're saying what you're wanting to say. It comes off clearly, and you're happy with it. Maybe sometimes it does need that full stop or that comma. I mean, the one thing I do like about Grammarly is the spelling mistakes, because sometimes my little sausage fingers don't quite spell right, and I don't know what goes on, but it comes up with a really random word, and then Grammarly will correct the spelling, which is great because sometimes you're just not concentrating on how you're spelling the word because you're more thinking about what it is you're trying to say and finding a way to explain it without, as you said, just going off into the, I don't know, mire of words, and then spelling just, for me anyway, just goes by the wayside a little bit. And so that's when I think, is it the red line? Can't remember. I think that's maybe where that's useful.
The red lines are the most useful lines on Grammarly, yes, because they tell you where the spelling mistakes are. And
Mm.
often when you're typing, you say with sausage fingers, I have it too. But sometimes whatever device you're using might do just a little autocorrect because you put a, a letter in wrong. But the autocorrect that it corrects to is a different word. And then your computer, your device doesn't pick up that word because it corrected it. So it's obviously right, right? But Grammarly will say, why are you using that word? That doesn't make sense in this sentence. And that's where Grammarly is very, very useful because it's like, well, I didn't write that word. That wasn't the word I intended to write. It's the device auto corrected it. And I know that it doesn't make sense, but I would have known it didn't make sense unless you told me. So thank you.
So yeah, it's and you and I, we've had many conversations about AI and copywriting, and you know, finding ways to be more authentic, especially like you said, in your marketing and the writing. But one of the being the confidence coach and being the conversation corner and bringing in about the confidence, I wanted to ask you, what does confidence mean for you or to you?
To me as a business owner or to me as a copywriter, which one do you
To
want?
Bob.
To Bob. Okay, so me
To
as a business
Bob.
owner. So confidence just means, to me, just means trusting in yourself. Actually, I think is what confidence means to me. It's trusting in your own abilities. One of the biggest things that um, affects me as a business owner, and not so much now, but definitely in the past, is the imposter syndrome. It's who the heck am I to be a copywriter? And that is the biggest thing that affects my confidence. Um, I have my own technique now for using how to get over imposter syndrome, or at least, a temporary patch over it for the for the time being. I've come to accept that imposter syndrome is going to be something that I'm probably going to have forever, and that's okay, right? Unless I'm the best copywriter in the world, and I'm making millions and millions and millions of dollars and pounds doing what I'm doing because everybody believes in me. I think that's really the only point that you never have imposter, because everyone believes in you. So obviously you don't have imposter syndrome, right? But there are points, and I think I've just accepted it's probably always going to be with me. But it's how we deal with it. It's how we take that imposter syndrome and actually how we use it as a power. Because I think that we can, right? We can use imposter syndrome as a power because sometimes imposter syndrome comes up when we actually need that pickup the most. Sometimes I think it's I don't know if this is a psychological thing or not, but sometimes I think I need a pick me up right now. So your brain goes, well, you're not good enough. I think what your brain's saying is prove to me that you are good enough. And then it tells you to go and prove. And I'll reveal my little technique that I use. It's to go back and look at the over 100 positive 5-star reviews that I've received across different platforms from people that I've worked with. Now, people don't just leave 5-star reviews. In fact, most people don't bother leaving a review. They don't really care about leaving a review. So the ones that left them obviously had a very good experience with me. They liked what I created. So just reading some of those, I have a little document with them all in it. And if I am really, really struggling, I can go to it and it gives me a pick me up. It's like, oh, I did that. And also it can remind me of some of the projects that I worked on in the past. And sometimes I can bring that into, well, I did that there. That's a great thing. Stop telling yourself you can't do it. You did it then, you can do it now. So, and in fact, you did it then 2 years ago. You can probably do it better now because you've grown since then. So stop, go away, imposter syndrome. Thank you for reminding me that I need that pick me up, but let's move forward with what I can do. And that's kind of what I do. And that, I mean, do you think your viewers would like to know my journey through from beginning to where I am now?
Yes, of
Should I
course,
talk about it?
because somebody's on the journey and they'd love to know what's helped you. So
I
go
mean,
for it.
a lot of people, you probably get this as well. Don't look at me or talk to me on a discovery call or meet me somewhere or see me on social media or whatever and think immediately, oh, he's an introvert. They just don't. And it's because of how I come across. I do elude that confidence, and that comes from my history. Um, but I wasn't always that way. I came out of school And I mean, my first job was pot washing in a kitchen, but let's skip over that part. That doesn't really matter. The first proper job, the one I got to pay bills and things, was actually in sales. And I didn't know at the time that I took that job what sales really was, what it meant, or that even that it was a really difficult industry. I just saw a job that was available. They looked pretty desperate to find people, so I applied, and I got the job. But I didn't know at that point that it was either going to make me or break me, and I didn't realize that it could break me. And during the 3 week training that they gave me, it was dawning on me that I don't think I could do this. Talking on the phone for 10 hours a day. That was the shift, 10-hour shifts. Cold calling people, and it was an over 50s
Nightmare.
insurance. So it's cold calling over 50. So they're probably home, or they might be home,
I've got
because
little things going, ah.
yeah, exactly. Here's me sitting in this training room thinking, well, I need this job. I need to be able to pay my bills. But I don't know if I can do this. And then after the 3 weeks of training, we were given 3 weeks to make 3 sales. Sounds easy, right? 3 weeks to make 3 sales. But when you've never done it before, it's not that easy. And I think there were like 20 people in this training group. I saw 5 of them disappear within a few days because they made their 3 sales. They had sales experience. They just went straight out onto the sales floor. For me, it got to that last week, and I was there with 3 other people in that last week. One had made 1 sale, one had made two, just like me. I'd made 2 sales by that point as well. I basically did 1 sale a week. And we got to the Friday. It was the last day. And I went into work that day and I said, do I want this job? Yes, I do. Do I need this job? Yes, I do. I've got to make a sale today. And it happened. I made a sale. It wasn't very pretty the way that it was made, but I made the sale. And from there, I think that for me was a confidence boost. It was like, I can do this. Okay. I got out onto the floor, and within 6 months, I became and what they called in that business an elite sales agent, which basically means I got a pay boost and I got a badge basically within the business to say, hey, you're an elite sales agent. And then within a year of that, I became oh no, no, again, within another 6 months, I became a senior, and which means that I was able to get more bonuses. And every business is going to be different, I'm sure. But then within 6 months of that again, so within 18 months, I was a deputy team leader. And I think I was probably 20, 21 at that point. I couldn't ever imagine myself deputy team leading a sales team, teaching other people how to sell, bringing new people in and nurturing them to sell, just like I can sell because I sell really, really well. And I was one of the top salespeople. But you would never have expected that of me. And that really was a growth of, a growth of confidence as I was going through that this is something I'm naturally good at. And as a shy introvert that never spoke to anybody really, it was massively unexpected. And then from there, I took a sidestep and did coaching basically. So I stopped doing the actual selling and a job became available where I listened to the calls and then coached from a compliance and sales perspective the advisors that were just not doing it quite right. And then I was made redundant. And then I decided to do my own thing. So, so this here for me, it was how do I mix something that obviously I've got nearly 10 years of experience in, because I did it for nearly 10 years in sales, with something that I'm passionate about, which is writing. I've always loved writing. And that was when I searched online and found copywriting. I was like, what's that? What is copywriting? So I completely self-taught myself before I decided to launch. But that's where I think the biggest hit in my entire career happened. Bear in mind that I've built this confidence up over the time that I'm really, really good at sales. I can sell. I can make money selling, and now I'm teaching people to do just that. Now I'm not just, I've proved that I can do it. Now I'm teaching people to running my own business and making zero sales, zero anything, just complete. Do you know when you watch those cartoons and there's tumbleweed? That's what it felt like. Just tumbleweed for 4 months, just absolutely nothing. And it was such a hit to me to have experienced this complete low that it was really, really hard to get through that. Until eventually, I just kept on trying. That was where resilience came in. Just don't give up. You can do this. You know that you can do this. You've proved. Now, I've never proved that I can sell my copywriting services. I can sell insurance, like the back of my hand, but you've never proved that you can do this. So let's just prove it. Let's just make a sale. Let's just find all the, use the different techniques that are out there to find the first client. Let's just, even if it's a free client, let's just get a client. Let's work with somebody. And I'm very happy to say that my first client wasn't free. It was cheap, but it wasn't free. And it got the ball rolling. And I still work with that client today. She's a recurring client for me. So just as proof of that I could do it, she still works with me today, that very first client. So I could do it then and I can still do it now. And it's just that for me it was a roller coaster. I don't want anyone to think that my journey of confidence was uphill all the way. From the time that I was 18 and got that job, no, it wasn't. It was a roller coaster throughout. It just constantly being hit by different things, even throughout the journey. I mean, I know I told it very positively, my journey in sales, that I got this promotion, I got this, but it was tough. It was really, really hard, and so much pressure on yourself, sleepless nights thinking, if I don't make these sales, I could lose my job because if you're not performing, they don't want you anymore. You know, they want you to be making bonus. If you're not hitting bonus, then they're just paying you a base wage and you're not actually making the money that they're paying you back. So they don't want you in the business. It's as simple as that. So it was really, really tough. It was really, really hard. But just building that confidence as I went through that journey has led me to how I am today. And I'm still an introvert. That doesn't change, right? But I'm not so shy anymore. That confidence has taken away the shyness. I do like talking to people now. I do like putting myself out there a little bit, not massively. And as an introvert yourself, Natalie, I know we do this and then we go and sit in a room on our own for the evening
in a dark corner.
just to recharge, right? but I can do this, and that's all from my confidence journey. So I guess my message from my own personal confidence journey would be: it doesn't matter where you're at. I was at a very, very, very low confidence point at the very, very beginning. And it's just that my experiences built up that confidence because I proved myself in what I was doing. And you could be doing anything, but just take those little wins as you're going along for confidence boosts, because that's what they are. And you will begin to grow in confidence if you're in the middle somewhere, or even if you're super confident right now. And maybe someone listening to this is a super confident person. Overconfidence can be a seller to sales too, by the way, because it can put a lot of people off. So maybe reel your confidence in a little bit. But it doesn't matter.
Arrogance.
Yeah, it can become across as arrogance, 100%. So it doesn't matter where you are on your confidence journey, you're going to get to where you want to be. I can guarantee it. I'm living proof in my eyes of that myself. Because if you'd have asked me when I was 18 years old and said, Bob, you're going to have a copywriting, I didn't know what copywriting was, but you're going to have a business where you're going to be selling services yourself, working for yourself, I'd have said, no way. No way, Jose. That's not going to happen. Not a chance. Not a chance in hell is that going to happen. But it did. And it's because of the journey that I took. It's the journey that I had. Everyone's having that journey. And everybody, I believe, has experiences throughout their life that are going to be able to enable them to grow confidence. You've just got to look out for them and take the opportunities to grow.
And one thing that I have noticed with like journeys, like you said, it seems to be the harder the journey, the more value it seems to have. And I'm not always a big proponent for, jump massively out of your comfort zone so that you scare yourself, paralyzed or whatever. But it's very similar. I never wanted my own business, but through circumstances, I had to have my own business because I was just tired of bad jobs, bad management. And as like you, an introvert, I didn't like to talk to people. And all of a sudden I was doing a business where I actually had to talk to people and present. And you went into sales. No. Did that for 2 weeks when I was 17. I lasted 2 weeks cold calling. No. But I went into public speaking. It's just as bad as going into sales.
I mean, that scares the heck out of me. I say sales and you shrivel up. You said public speaking, and I was
So
like,
I went
oh.
into public speaking because I literally had to learn how to speak to people. I could have a conversation and, I can communicate. But the minute I was in a room with other people, it was like nothing happened. And so I can really relate to this, the sales and, being told that it was time to give my first speech. And it's like your 3 weeks, do I quit or do I come back?
Yes.
Yeah, I went back because I realized that this was something that I needed. And looking back, yes, it was really important that I did it. But at the time, I'm like, what idiot does public speaking and stands up and gives a speech? But it was done. And and this is something that I think is these lessons that we learn are so powerful that we can bring those experiences, that knowledge, what it is that we've learned, whether it's the skills, whether it's the the tangible skills or the intangible skills, like just having that resilience within yourself. But you also touched on something that's really interesting, as you said, I could sell insurance, but I couldn't sell my copywriting for 4 months. But it's personal. When solopreneur, I'll put my teeth back in. So when solopreneurs become solopreneurs, it becomes personal. Yes, we can answer the phone, we can sell, or we can talk about the company we're working for because, 5 o'clock, clock off at the end of the week or end of the month, you get your paycheck, you just tick that box. Yes, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, right, home time, that's it. You forget about it. There's no personal in that. But the minute you become a solopreneur, it's you. So you're not selling insurance that's impersonal. You're all of a sudden selling Bob, who does copywriting. It's like, yeah. And going from that, taking that step can be really challenging, can be scary, can be overwhelming because it's like, but I know how to sell. I'm good at it. What's gone on? And it's the difference in the emotion and how you perceive it, and you touched on that, so that's great. It's just sharing that going from being employed to running our own business. It's like, oh my, what's gone wrong? Why can't I do these basic things that I was good at? Why can't I do them? And it is just the way that you feel about something. So I'm really
It,
glad that you brought that up and shared that. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is what helps you in, and you did sort of touch on this with the imposter syndrome and all that, but when you're having those days and it's just like, you know what, that's it, I'm done, I'm quitting, I'm going back to sales, and I'm going to go back to selling insurance, this malarkey is not working, this is not going to happen anymore. What keeps you going? What helps you then to remind yourself your of your skill set, but even gets you that confidence again?
so, I mean, it's a loaded question you just asked me there. There's so many avenues I could take it. That's the thing. So, generally, for me at least, and I think a lot of people will be able to agree with this probably. Um, for me at least, those low times that make me think, let's just go and get a job again. Let's just, go and do something that I can do. It's it's mainly around money. You start thinking, I'm not making the money. I'm not making the money that I was doing back then. Or this month I had a really shit month. And I could have made more stocking shelves or whatever it might be that is going through your mind at that particular time. And I've spoken a lot. I don't know if your viewers know, but I have my own podcast, and there's a guest that I've already spoken to that episode is already out, and she's the opposite of me in that she's never been an employee at all, and she's always
There
worked for
are some
herself.
of those weird people that have never been employed.
And it's so weird, right? And her mum and dad were both self-employed. So her family, she comes from a place where it's all she knows. She knew that she was going to be a photographer, and she knew that she was going to be working for herself. She never even crossed her mind that she would go and get a job as a photographer, right? And she speaks to people a lot like myself who sometimes say, oh, it's just so tough right now. I should probably just go and get a job. Maybe I can even get a job as a copywriter, whatever. And she says that terrifies her. But in my head, it's like, no, that's me looking for stability. It's looking for a stable financial income. And she said, no, that's scary because that what you're calling stable income is actually a limit. You make X amount of money per month, and that's all you can make. And you sacrifice family time, you sacrifice you time, you sacrifice everything else around your business, or what you have, what the freedom that having your own business gives you for that. And in her head, she'd say things like, and this is what stuck with me, which is why I shared that story. She said something like, what she said to me, sorry, was, um, if I need more money, I just need to go and sell a service. So I just need to think about how do I sell this much because I need this much money. Yeah, I want to go on holiday in 2 months. I need this much money for that holiday. Okay, what do I need to sell? Who do I need to sell to? And I think sometimes as solopreneurs with the employee mindset, we often don't think that way. We're thinking, how the heck can I make the money I need to make? But it's just that very small difference in the mind of how can I make that money? And sometimes I'm thinking, okay, I've made X amount of money this month. I could have made more if I had have been working at Tesco stocking shelves or something. I don't know. Um, but then you start looking at this is me personally. I've done this. You start looking at the numbers and you start thinking, okay, I would have made £300 more if I'd have done that job. But it all comes back to, or maybe even thinking, this is an actual thought that I've done. Sorry, I'm really going off on a tangent now. Um,
You're an
is
introvert. That's what we do.
maybe I can go and get a part-time job, carry on doing what I'm doing, so that I don't limit myself 100% with my income, but I can go and get a part-time job. And then you start looking at part-time jobs and you start seeing the wages and you start seeing this one will give me £600 because it's X amount of hours. This one will give me £800 because it's X amount of hours. But for me, what really keeps me going in terms of resilience and just reminds me, Bob, what the hell are you thinking? Is that £600 extra that you get from a part-time job is 2 weeks worth of work, non-stop, right? Because you've got a half, say the part-time job is half the amount of time. Just go and sell a £600 service. Just go and sell £600 of service, and then it doesn't have to be 2 weeks because you don't have to do 2 weeks of work to get that money. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Why would I go and work for 2 weeks, a month, doing something that I'm not going to enjoy? That's probably going to kill my soul a little bit. Um, when actually I could just go and sell. Now, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Right? Sometimes we do make that sale, sometimes we don't make that sale. But I think that's what keeps me going is that what I like to call it now, because I refer to it as getting a job is stable. That's the employee mindset talking. For me, it's perceived stability because it isn't stable. You could lose that job whenever.
Exactly. And you are working towards, their criteria, their hours. They dictate to you when you have lunch, when you don't have lunch, what time you arrive, what time you leave, and they check up on you. Usually, I've never had experiences with good management, so and normally checking up, you stop for 5 seconds. What did you stop for? We don't pay you to stand still. Well, I'm just catching my breath. But it is very much. And then they decide they want to downsize or, then they make you redundant. So you essentially have no control over anything. You can give your heart and soul to the company. You can be as loyal as you want. They just decide, no, that's it. That's it. You're done. You're out.
100%. And you just gave me a little bit of workplace PTSD then, I think, with your descriptions, because I was like, yes, I remember those days. That was not fun. And one thing that I often remind myself of as well, you just reminded me that I often think this, is that within any business, as an employee, you are infinitely replaceable. In your business as a solopreneur, you are not replaceable. Because if you go, sure, there's another copywriting business, from my perspective, there's another copywriting business out there. There is somebody else that someone could go to. If I was to disappear, my existing clients could go and get their services from someone else. But they can't get my services. They can't get what they got from me. Because what I offer is 100% unique. Even if it's the same service, it's still unique because it's me offering it. But in a workplace, you're not unique. And I know that it's an overused term, but you are just a number in a workplace. They even give you employee numbers, right? Do you have a self-employed number? You don't give yourself a self-employed number because you
No,
are.
and it's like, yeah, but everybody does it this way, so you have to do it this way. So, yeah, but my brain doesn't work that way. I work this way. No, but you have to do it this way. And it's like, but yeah, yeah, there's a reason I think why a lot of people have become self-employed. And when I speak to self-employed people, it usually is because of an experience that they've had that has just been that straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes,
And there's a lot, and for me that scares me, because then when I think, oh, okay, that's it, I'm done, I'm off to get a job, and it's like your photographer friend. It's like, no, this isn't going to happen. And I had to, with lockdown, I had to get a job. And I had a job for 13 weeks with Tesco's. And it reminded me of why I'm not working. And I was told I have an attitude problem. But yeah, because I
Oh,
think like a self-employed person, I can think for myself. You tell me what to do and I'll get on with it because I'm used to managing myself and doing things that need to be done, but you don't need to stand on my, behind me and say, do it faster, do it like this, do it like, I'll get it done. And if you stand behind me, I'm like, well, then you do it, just leave me alone. So yeah, I was a problem employee, but there was a contract that I was on. I don't think they would have even offered me a full-time job if I wanted it. Couldn't wait till my weeks were up and it's like, bye. But it was a good reminder for me of what it means to be employed and how as a self-employed person, and it becomes this thing. I was talking to a friend of mine. She's finally stopped straddling the being employed and running her own business. She's finally quit her job to focus on her business. And her father actually said to her, you have now taken the first step to become unemployable. Because I think the minute you start running your own business, you do become unemployable because you realize the restrictions, you realize you think for yourself, you learn so many skills. The amount of skills I have picked up since I've left employment is phenomenal, and they would not be utilized in an employment situation. And I'm sure the same is for you, is you've picked up loads of skills, not just copywriting skills, but web design, podcasting, editing. What job are you going to have where they're going to want you to do all that, as well as everything else that you're doing, creating newsletters, all sorts of things, and the bookkeeping and the CRM systems and this that we learn as self-employed, as running our own businesses, which then also essentially makes us unemployable.
it's so true. And if we've got time, I'll share a very quick story because there was a point very similar to you where it was a couple of months of just really low, and I thought, okay, at this point, I'm not going to quit, but at this point, I do need something else because I don't. I'm trying everything. I thought I was trying everything I could. I wasn't, but I thought I was trying in that mindset. I thought I was trying everything I could, and I couldn't, and I wasn't getting what I needed out of my business. So I went for an interview for a job that I knew I was massively overqualified for, like 100%. Even before I started my own business, I was overqualified for this job. And I knew that I was overqualified for the job, but it meant that I could do the job easily and very, very quickly and whatever. And throughout, I had a video interview and then I went in for an in-person interview. I didn't get the job. They didn't even offer me the job, right? And I got feedback as to why they didn't offer me the job. And the two pieces of feedback were you just kept on talking about your business all the time. You kept on reminding us that you're still going to carry on your business. You're not quitting your business side. And I don't even remember what the other one was. There was two pieces of information, but the second one basically gave me that feeling of, oh, I am unemployable. Because basically what you're saying is that you don't want to work with someone with a brain. That was, and I know that sounds really horrible, but that's how it felt to me. It kind of felt like, okay, you've pointed out that I'm too overqualified for this job. And obviously I've shown that too much. I didn't answer the questions you wanted, the way you wanted an employee who's going to stay in line and do the job you want them to do would answer. I've answered them in a way that's probably going to make me a problem. That's probably going to make me an issue within your business. And and I get it. And that, very similar to you with your Tesco experience, just gave me the reminder that, okay, well, if I'm unemployable, because it was the thought, it was the word that came into my head of that, if I'm unemployable, then I'm obviously good enough to be doing what I'm doing.
Mm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be unemployable. So let's just kick yourself up the butt and get out there and restart.
Mm.
And what actually came on the back of that was, okay, I need recurring income. That's the problem. I need recurring income to be coming in. So what actually happened there was I reached out to my previous clients and just said, hey, do you want to work with me on a regular basis? And not all of them got back to me, but a couple of them did. And it turned into recurring things. And that just gave me some sense of security. Yeah, it wasn't enough to just wave me over with the bills every single month, but I knew that X amount of money was definitively coming in next month, which is a mindset change massively, almost to that, oh, you're employed basis. Um, because instead of thinking, oh, okay, we're coming to the end of this month, oh, okay, another month, what am I going to do next month to make sure I've got enough money? Now I'm not starting at zero. I'm not starting on the ground. I'm starting higher up. I need to make this extra money. I'm doing this. I just need to make this extra money. Also, what I found during those low times that really knocked my confidence was not working in what I want to work on. When we're solopreneurs, we do all that admin stuff. We're trying to sell ourselves. We're reaching out. We're trying to find clients. That's not our bread and butter. I mean, technically in copywriting it is for me, but I help people find the right words and to sell their services with writing. And often there's not an enormous amount of writing involved in me reaching out to people in the same way that I do my copywriting. So kind of pulling away from what I do knocked my confidence a little bit, especially when I did make the sale, and then it was like, crap, I've got to do copywriting again. Gosh, for you it'd be like, oh, I've got a coaching client again. What? How do I coach again? It's that same sort of thing, which I think sits in the back of our mind as a fear. And I've noticed this. It's like, and that sits in the back of your mind as a fear. If I sell, I've got to do it again, and am I good enough to do it again? Well, I haven't done it for a long time, so maybe I shouldn't sell. I know that's not what we're actually consciously thinking, but I think it's happening subconsciously. And
Mm-hmm.
we have to kick that. And it's all of the, like you say, your experience with Tesco, it's the experience with me with the interview. I'm unemployable. That means I can do what I'm doing. All of those things help us just to have that extra little bit of resilience and to move forward.
It is. It's such a different mind shift when you run your own business, and like you said, it's finding ways that work and ways that don't work, and finding what works for you as opposed to what works for somebody else. In the process of reading a book by Shane Kannick, I think his name is, The Inner CEO, and it is you can do everything that the people in your industry have done, the successful, do all the actions that they do. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to be where they are, because a lot of it is what's going on in your head, that subconscious, that's what are you thinking, what are you saying to yourself, how are you being perceived. But yes, you can do the actions, but it doesn't mean anything, and it's also about finding the right actions for you.
Mhm.
You and I, we are introverts. We do things differently to the way an extrovert would do something. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a right or wrong way. It's just a different way. And I think this is a lot of what is starting to become noticeable, is introverts work differently to extroverts. You cannot expect an extrovert to work the way an introvert does, and vice versa. And I think
Mhm.
this is especially going from being employed, where it's very much about being an extrovert. You have to almost put on this persona to survive in the corporate world, and then you bring that into your business. I mean, for me, it took me years to even click that I was an introvert. I always thought there was something wrong with me, but it was because I wasn't an extrovert, I was an introvert. But then it's like, okay, now what do I do with that? I'm supposed to do all these actions, but they don't fit for me, they don't work for me. And I think this is also part of finding what works. How does it work? For instance, is videos a way I want to go, or do I prefer writing and doing emails? Do I want to be on social media, or don't I want to be on social media? What do I do instead of? And
Mhm.
it's finding those ways. And this is one of the reasons why I often talk about humanness and the uniqueness, is find what works for you, because what works for you, Bob, doesn't necessarily work for me, and vice
Mhm.
versa, because we are two totally different people. We have different experiences. We might have similar ideals and similar values. But that's where we sort of just, ships in the night, just passing by. And that's fine. But we cannot do everything exactly the same. As we were talking about earlier, we're not robots. We even the way we would write a sentence or the way that we speak is different, let alone not even going on the accent bits, but just the why would I choose a word and you would choose a different word that might have the same meaning or put it in a different way? It's just because of the way that we are. And I think as solopreneurs, that's something that has to really be learned. It's almost like you leave your job and it's like, who am I? Oh my God, I don't even know how to function. So you just function on what you think you should function on. And there's all that shoulding that you're doing all over yourself. And then it's like, but that doesn't work. And it's almost like you have that moment where you step back and think, okay, who am I? How am I going to do this? And finding your way to do it. And some people it's quicker, some people it's longer. Me, I always seem to take the really long journey. Nothing happens quickly, but it's always an interesting journey. And I think you've touched so much on that, and just by sharing your experiences and the way that you've learned is there's somebody out there who's on a similar road to you or in a similar place, not exactly the same place, but it is okay to just have those moments. It's okay to go for that interview and maybe realize this isn't what I'm wanting. This isn't actually what I'm wanting. What can I do differently? How can I do it? Try social media, come off social media, try YouTube, come off YouTube. It doesn't matter. Just find ways that work and have the right people in your corner to support and encourage you. And on that note, who is your hero? Who do you admire? But they can be alive, they can be dead, they can be famous, they can even be a fictional character. But who is it? Who's that person that's in the back of your mind when something doesn't work, that sort of pops up subconsciously? Or you might even say, how would X do it? Or, just who's sort of there in your corner?
Do you know what? I'm gonna have to divert this question. which,
Oh, you don't
which
want to
is
answer.
which is it's not that I don't want to answer, it's just that I don't have anybody. And I'm going to change there are people that I admire, and it could be fictional. Like, I love King Arthur, but he doesn't pop up for me in my head when I'm struggling. I just love the story of King Arthur. I think the legend is great. Specifically, the character there is Merlin, because he's the one behind everything. He's the one that had all the answers, to bring King Arthur to what he was, to the legend that he was. Right? He's kind of the silent partner, if you're in the background. Um, I think I want to bring this question around to that supposed to, or the shoulding, which has always stuck with me since I first met you and you mentioned it to me. Um, is that I know there's I don't know what it's called. There's a boardroom exercise that you can do, which a lot of people talk about. Who's in your boardroom? Who do you talk to, in your mind? Who's in your mind's boardroom? And I think that's kind of the question you're asking. And I've tried to do it in the past, and I've even made the boardrooms, but I never use it. And I think the best way for me to answer this question is to actually say it's a great question, but it doesn't always have to apply to everybody, right? What works for some people doesn't work for others. So King Arthur was the reason I mentioned King Arthur. King Arthur and Merlin were in my boardroom, both of them, because they work together. They work really, really well together. But just because they're in my boardroom doesn't mean that I ever use them or have ever used them to help me make business decisions or move forward in my business, or to give me that confidence boost, or to turn to how would they do it. It's just a technique that doesn't work for me. And that's okay. It's okay that it doesn't work for me, because what works for some people works for some people. What doesn't, as you said a moment ago, it doesn't work for others. And this is just an example of, I think the question's a great question. And I think it's a really good exercise to try, but not everybody has to rely on that exercise. And knowing when to let go of something that's not working for you is in itself a skill, is in itself a desirable skill, I think. to say, do you know what? Same as the social media. You can be trying the social media over and over again, knowing when to say, do you know what? This isn't working for me. Let me try something else. So who's my hero? It's a really, really difficult question to answer from that perspective because there isn't necessarily somebody in my head that says what would, you know, I
You and
don't
I were
know.
separated at birth because like you, I've never had heroes, and I'm always fascinated on why people pick heroes. But over the last sort of few months, I've been thinking about, why do I follow certain people, or what do I look for? And I think what it is ideas of snippets. So one of the things that I really admire is Alexander the Great, because I think he was an amazing general. I think he's been one of the last decent generals in history. Don't shoot me for that. But it's very much, what is it about Alexander the Great that I admire? And it's the that he conquered the known world, but he didn't dominate the world. And I think, so it's that I love. I'm a huge Trekkie fan, and I love Voyager. And on Voyager, I love Captain Janeway and Seven of Nine. But what is it about them that I would aspire to learn from them, or anything? So it's little ideals, authors that I like. And I think that is, for me, that makes sense. Like you said, you mentioned King Arthur. Yes. I mean, who doesn't like King Arthur? I know there's some people who don't. And Merlin, and by the sounds of it, you have that similar. You have these snippets of who you like, but because I've never actually had or grown up with the posters of the heroes, and absolutely that is my hero. I'm always fascinated to know. So it's actually quite fun to meet somebody like me because I don't have one.
I didn't expect that to be. I
So
didn't
going
expect
on to my next question then is, so so this is mostly for my audience, is what sort of actions, books, courses, or anything that has helped you, that has guided you, that has maybe shifted you onto that next step, or given you that, aha, that makes sense. What, just anything that maybe somebody who's listening can think, oh, let me pick up that book, or try that, or exercise, or whatever it is.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to caveat everything I'm going to say right now with I'm going to try and give the names as best I can, but my memory for names is terrible. So, so there's kind of two aspects here. From the copywriting and improving in my business, because I look at it two ways: there's growing personally and there's growing business wise. And Dan Kennedy is a copywriter, I believe. Again, my memory for these things is go and find out who Dan Kennedy is. I'm almost 100% sure he's a marketer at the very, very least. I think he is a copywriter as well. But he wrote a book, and I think it's called the Ultimate Sales Page or something like that, or the Ultimate Sales Letter. That's what it's called. It's called the Ultimate Sales Letter. And I read that at the beginning of me becoming a copywriter. I actually read it when I was in that 4 month downtime and didn't have any clients. It was a great time to kind of self-develop myself, even though I hadn't actually worked with a client yet. But there's so many things within that book from a sales perspective that I didn't know, working in sales and being so successful in sales, and especially bringing it into the written form, because it is different to just talking. He really helped me on my own business journey of improving that. There's also somebody else who wrote the $100 million offer or something like that. Again, names I'm not very good at. But he's really, really good at explaining how to sell yourself. And I know it's something that solopreneurs just really struggle with, creating an offer that's going to sell. And what the way that he explains it actually is, I just said selling yourself, but what actually makes it, because the whole idea of selling yourself is really hard. He actually makes it easier to understand because you're not selling yourself, you're selling your offer. You are just the offer, right? You're just in the offer. You are part of the offer, but you're selling the offer. Sell the offer, create the offer, curate the irresistible offer that somebody can't say no to. And that there was a really, and I can't remember his name. It's going to really bug me now that you've asked me, but $100 million offers, I think is what it's called, the book that he wrote. And he's just released a new book as well. And then from the personal development side, I'm always going to fall back on Robin Sharma. Sharman, Sharman. Thank you. Um, because before I went, after I was made redundant, I did go and get another job doing the same thing. It was the most terrible job I ever had. But during that time, I read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and it just filled me with the confidence and the desire to work for myself, to build my own thing, to build my own legacy in the world. And I've read it multiple times, and it's an incredible. I'd say it was probably number one on top of the list for my books that I read. And from a personal development perspective, 100% recommend that book.
It was a great book and a good author to read. And I'm just looking at my bookshelf. It's To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. I do like Daniel Pink. I've read quite a few of his books. So just for you and for the audience, is Daniel Pink is another author that's really worth reading and getting into. So I mean, you and I, we can talk for hours, and
We
this has
could.
gone on way longer than I had said it would. But you've shared so much wonderful stuff. What last gold nugget can we get from you before we go?
Oh, I don't know. I've shared so much, and you've just left it so open. As an indecisive person, that's really tough to throw at me. Last golden nugget. Um, I don't know if someone needs to hear this. This is just what my gut's saying. I'm going to go with my gut, Natalie.
Mhm.
Maybe someone watching this needs to hear it. Just don't give up. Because you're going to feel the times that you want to give up, that you want to just stop doing whatever you're doing. But if you're doing something that your heart desires to do, if you're serving what you feel is your purpose, don't give up. You
I
might be
love that.
going across all these different things that you might make you feel like you want to give up, but just don't. Be resilient. Find something to push yourself forward to do something else. Change tack. I don't know, just do something, but don't give up.
And on that note, how perfect is that? And I will share all your links. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, they will all be in the description. And any links you will give to me, and it will be there. And to the listeners, what have you got from today? I hope you've learned something, especially about copywriting. And that last bit of advice is don't give up. It is such a powerful bit of advice, because it is easy to give up, especially building a business, growing a business, dealing with self-doubt, dealing with that imposter syndrome. But as you can see, journeys are not always easy, but they are worth it. And I just want to thank you so much, Bob, for sharing with us, for giving us a lot of information, a lot of stories. And who says introverts don't talk? We just talk when there's two of us. It's when we're in a crowd that we keep quiet. So a hint to you, if you want to keep an introvert quiet, put them in a room full of people and they won't say boo to a goose, but just have two people there and we will talk and talk forever. So it's an interesting dynamic that you always think introverts don't talk. No, we can talk for hours. But thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate it. You've shared so much valuable information, especially also some copywriting or marketing sales tools that my audience can take away, just helping with confidence, how they can build their confidence. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And until next time in the Conversation Corner, I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.